Ben, thank you so much for coming and being on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Good. I wanted to congratulate you firstly. You're a new father. Tell me a bit about that fatherhood.
Yeah, well, something to look forward to, Dawood. Yeah, it's great being a dad. I think it definitely changes you a lot. So I've got a 13-month-year-old daughter, and definitely my whole life has been changed. You suddenly, the world's no longer about you. You've got to care for someone.
Do you feel like having, someone else that you have to think about in your day completely changes the way you behave in your day?
Yeah, I definitely think when you're at work, you now work as hard as you can because any time you're wasting, procrastinating, you could be spending with your family. So I think it makes you focused. And I think it gives you a big purpose in work because you're building something more than yourself. Because everything you do will give your children more opportunities.
Do you recommend it?
Yes, so good.
Are you planning second soon?
Sometime, we'll see.
Nice. So I guess I wanted to get into your brand firstly. I'm very fond of it. I think it's so powerful what you're doing. If we can just explain and go into a bit more detail about Total Fit, what it means to you and its origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to go way back.
Go all the way back.
So when I was at university at Sussex, I was studying international development and new venture creation. And during that time, I got the opportunity to go work on an island between Yemen and Somalia called Socotra. So have you seen the film Captain Phillips?
Yes.
With Tom Hanks? Basically, the island where he gets taken hostage is the island, like next to it is this
Is where
island.
you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting island. And to get to this island, you had to fly to Oman, and then you had to get a boat that carried cement.
That carries cement.
Cement, yeah, because there was no
And do you have
way.
your luggage with you?
Yeah, you just got a backpack.
You just go, okay.
Backpack. So I got on this boat, and the crew were Indian. They didn't even speak Arabic. And the idea was to get to this island, and you're going through these waters where you think, are there Somali pirates? Are there not?
How long's the
So it was
the
2
journey?
days.
2 days on the water.
2 days on the water.
Okay.
And this is very remote boat. The toilet is a box that hangs off the back. You feel like you could just fall into the water when you're sleeping on deck.
Okay.
So we get to this island, and on this island was the reason I'd gone there was these local guys had set up a gym, and the reason there was a drug problem on the island, and the idea they built this gym so that they would help young men have something to do. But when they got funding to get this gym, no one on the island knew anything about gym training. So I went out there to help train the coach there about the basics of physical fitness. I didn't have any qualifications in personal training at the time, but I loved, rugby and the gym. So I went there and we sketched out on paper. We had it was kind of like just bodybuilding books, and we photocopied them and made plans for everyone and stuck them on the wall.
You said who else was
So there was
with
another
you?
guy, David, he was a friend. We went together, and the coach Rafat, who was local. It was his gym. And so we made these workouts, and we grew the gyms 50 members, and it was wonderful. It was so fun. We had a great relationship with the guys. We were building a job for the coach there, and it was wonderful. We made a little video about it, and it left, and it seemed like happy days. But the thing about that was, it actually, as soon as we left, within a couple of months, the membership went right down. And so I learned a big lesson. I actually went out there a second time. Is about sustainability, is that there's one thing doing something as a one-off that has impact, but how do you have long-lasting change? And so that's where I got connected with this organization. So Total Fit had already been established, and it was the whole idea was how do we train coaches that can help people grow, not just in physical health, but in mental and spiritual. So there's 3 objectives. You want to move the body from passive to active. So to take someone who's maybe never exercised, who's more sedentary, to help them live an active lifestyle. So they've got strength in their muscles, their lungs are fine, their visceral fats are at a good level. How do we get them to that active level? Then in the mind, we want to take them from anxiety to mindfulness. So we don't want people to be overburdened with stress. We want them to be able to handle their mental well-being and their emotions. And in the spiritual, we want to take meaningless to purpose. We want everyone to have purpose in their life. Because if you don't have purpose, it's like the bedrock. And so spirituality, when we talk about it, it's not necessarily just about religion. Everyone has a spirit and has a desire for purpose in their life. So how do we in Total Fit help people grow in all areas? So I heard about this concept, and my heart, I was so drawn to it.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, because it was powerful. I did development studies, and I knew there was more. I was interested in health. My brother's a doctor, the other's a nurse, and I was interested in health, and this really helped me link, I can really change people's lives with this type of coaching. And I did the course, great course, but I found I didn't know what to do after that, because there was no like business structure. And there's one thing being a good coach and then running a business. So I said to the guys, I'm going to set up, the first, a Total Fit gym that only does this type of holistic training. So in the UK, at the time, I had no money. And so what I did is I bought £20. I bought a kettlebell from eBay from a guy. Still remember when he gave it to me. And I started coaching people in the park with this. And then I also was coaching at the university.
Under the Total Fit brand?
Under the Total Fit brand.
Okay.
Then I started going around and talking to town halls and local churches. Anyone who had space, asking, do you have any space that I could use? And eventually, long story short, my church said, we've got this space you can use. And we called it a gym, when really it was probably the size of like a bathroom. It was tiny.
How many people could you fit in there?
At the time we said 8,
okay.
But like...
Yeah, that was pushing it.
It was pushing it. And to give you an idea, my dad said when he came and saw it, his heart sunk.
Oh dear.
Because how little it was. Yeah. But to me, it was a gym.
Of course,
and
yeah,
it was the greatest
space.
thing. And so we started there, and within 1 month, COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd go online, go in the park, just keep hustling. And then eventually a cafe went under next to us, so we expanded into there. And we really built a community in Brighton that has been amazing. And now we've scaled another gym in Burgess Hill, and then we're scaling another one in March, in the next few months. So we're looking to now we've got the systems down of how do we help people grow in optimal health. We've got the model down in terms of, giving staff career progression. We can really start to scale it, because we want more and more people to reach optimal health. And we want to give coaches the opportunity to live a life where they can be a full-time coach. A lot of people leave our industry because they see it as like, that's something you do when you're young, personal training. You need a real job. As we want to be like, no, you can have a great career in this industry of helping people with their health.
I find that very interesting, because you touch on success and someone's holistic goals as being more than just about their physical capabilities. So it's not about if someone can just achieve a six-pack or just lose weight. There's so much more to it. Going back to Socotra, so that's an environment where the concept of health and fitness isn't introduced, I assume. Do you find it's difficult to introduce at least even just a physical aspect to people who have never grown up in a society where it's around them?
Yeah. And so I think, interesting in Socotra, people are actually aware of the need.
Okay.
Is even in a developing region, because of poor diets, because of a lot of snacks, and people have access to a lot of sugary drinks. And even then you see jobs like even shopkeeping, it's quite sedentary. And so people are putting on a lot of weight, and they can see the difference in themselves than they were a couple of decades ago, when there wasn't this access to high sugar foods.
How can you give me how do they see that?
Just I think in conversation they can say, I used to not be like this,
Mm-hmm.
Over a decade ago. Something's changed, can you help me? Or seeing it within their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents didn't used to be, to the level of overweight that they are. So people were aware that they needed support in terms of their training.
Do you feel like this concept, I know in Africa and parts of the world, being overweight is a sign of beauty? And do you feel, is there a relationship between the need for us to train and, be in our best physical shape purely to attract the opposite gender? Or do you feel there's a lot more to it?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So I would say it's to do with health and how we feel. And we want people to feel their best selves. Like, we believe that we were made a certain way in this world. You know, and we believe we were made to move, use our bodies, we were made to use our minds, we were made to be in relationship with each other. And so that's our different spheres like we got here, you know, the physical sphere, our social sphere of health, our environmental sphere, how we're connected with nature. So we want people to grow. We believe that if you grow in all the areas of your health, so we believe there's 6 spheres: physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, environmental. If you grow in all areas, you are going to feel your best self. So if I help someone get really, you know, in shape, but they say they had no purpose in their life, they would feel really down about themselves, and they probably wouldn't be someone you'd want to hang out with. So in terms of relationship on a spouse sort of level, it's so much more than the physical. Yes, that plays an element of confidence that you're looking after yourself, but you got to look after yourself in so many other ways.
And how would you teach that? You know, how would you gain the knowledge in all these different realms to you know, kind of guide someone through that, through the journey in each one of those spheres?
Great question. So we're not psychologists or experts in every way. So we definitely, when someone's on extreme spectrum, we signpost them. You know, okay, if they're, you know, showing severe levels of anxiety, you need to see a specialist. But for the general population, the big thing is just awareness. It's having that aha moment where you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was important. So we have a few different metrics where we have a health tracker where we assess people's health in their body, mind, and spirit. And then we also have, you know, +1 check-ins to ask them how different spheres are going in their health. So with their environmental, it would be, have you spent 30 minutes outside every single day? Social, it would be, are you in contact with at least 3 close friends this week?
So these are metrics for someone who would sign up to the gym?
Yeah, so we can check in them. And then we also build the whole structure. We take whole life coaching, we put it into every session. So every week we have a theme of the week, and then we have healthy habits, and we also normally have an inspirational story that we share about someone working on one of these areas. So the concept is when they come for just a physical workout, they leave being challenged to grow in other spheres as well, because we want to be their health center. We want to be there where they come to and they ask all these questions, and we can signpost them to the place that they need to go to.
Do you ever get concerned with where people's minds, because I'm assuming if someone's at a very low point and they now join the gym, where their mind is might not be on par with your more advanced members. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our big values is community. And so we normally work in, you know, small groups of 6. And so what we find is that there's always questions we ask in the workouts. You know, we ask people, what are they thankful for today? So we're training people. In the beginning, people are like, oh, you're asking me this again. But we're training people to be grateful. So in their mind, they're getting used to when you're struggling, or normally with, obviously when severe case of depression, you need to see a specialist. But for the general population, when we're feeling down, we're not aware of the good things in our life. So we build that habit, that ritual of every situation. What am I grateful for today? What am I grateful? So these are little things that we're doing to help, and sharing it in the group, sharing those little wins. Then we also ask the question, what's stressing you out today? And that's a big thing for people, because we want to make it a safe space so that in these groups, people feel that they're being supported by the people around them. And so they can go in the workout. You know how it is. You can never perform your best at work or anything when you feel stressed. So by asking people, what are you stressed about? It lets them, a problem shared is a problem halved. Let it share it, put it aside. So we do those little things. There's a few more questions we ask during the workout to help build that community in terms of, and helping moving that needle in the right direction. So that's only a few examples of how we do it.
For people who are maybe from different backgrounds, different cultural beliefs, do they all come in with the same problems? And is your approach the same to each person? If we have 10 people who walk in and sign up to become members, will the approach be the same with each one, or is it tailored or bespoke to each person?
So obviously there's a difference between the ideal of what we would love and then what we can do in practicality. So everyone is different, and we all have different starting points, different beliefs of where we're at, and our journey is going to look different. And our job as the coach is to guide them through that process, you know, Some people are going to hit the ground running and they're going to be great for 3 months of training. Someone might in the first week be overwhelmed. It's going to go up or down. So our job as a coach is that personability we talked about, is the ability to be present to see what does that client actually need in this session. Mm-hmm. So yes, we're working in small groups and there's a workout structure, but we can control the intensity. We can control the environment of what that individual needs. Mm-hmm. And then out of it as well, we can give them the support in the check-ins that we need, the nutritional support. We can tailor that to them. So yes, it is personalized, and that looks more personalized if we do like one-to-one than in small groups. But we're very aware that it's not one size fits all, and it's how we train our coaches to be responsive. That you can't just turn up as a coach, do the workout on the screen. You've got to be loving the member that comes in the room. And that comes at a cost. As a coach, myself for coaching years, it does take a lot of energy. Like you finish the day and you feel very rewarded, but you've given a lot because you've listened. People are coming in from stressful days, from losing family members, and you are serving them, listening to them. Big one's just listening to them, how they're doing, seeing what they need for the day to coach them to get their long-term goals in their health, but also what they need in that day.
I guess for an interesting thing would be when someone comes in with a need, who defines their need? Let's say they just want to talk, right? Can they step into the gym? But if do they have a planned workout on that day? For example, today they're addressing their physical health, but something happened at work and now they just want to talk. Would you adjust to what they want?
So I think it really depends, because when we're working in a group environment, there's only so much personalization we can do. So there's an element of like, we are a gym. So people come to us to get physical health first. That is our primary responsibility, but we're making people aware that we need to work on these other areas. With that, if it's a one-to-one session, plenty of time I've had it where we've had, just conversations. How are they finding stress in their life? How are the habits building? And we can tailor it. In a group session, they will have to do the workout, but it will tailor it. We can make the load a lot lighter, so they can achieve something that they need to achieve for that day.
Would you reject people?
In some sites, I've said, look, you're doing great. You just keep going. And I think there is an element where we can help them holistically, but sometimes people are not in a place to hear that. You've got to have humility to be coached. And some people, you can tell they're just not there in their life. They're fine. They're doing their push, pull, squat, hinge, and that's great for them, but they're not willing to work on other spheres of their life. And so we're probably not the place for them.
And they'll probably continue to counter what you're trying to reach, and then it just becomes disruptive.
Exactly, yeah. So you've got to buy into it.
You got to buy into it. I know you said it takes a mental toll on you. It can almost get exhausting, hosting those people's lives essentially. Do you ever get to a point where you feel you want to step back? It's too much load on you?
So I'm no longer coaching, particularly because we're trying to scale. So obviously my passion was coaching. That's how I got into it and grew from there. And so being more removed, I do have much more energy you've got to make some more logical decisions in terms of the growth, how each site is doing, and it does help being removed, because it's very hard to make great decisions when you're so immersed in the people, because that if you need to do, with inflation or the budget, you need to do a price increase, but that Jimmy's not going to be able to afford it, and you've been on a 2-year journey with Jimmy, helping him. It is very tough to make those decisions.
So how was it? How was it taking that step back from coaching and moving more to a more executive level and more ownership, entrepreneurial view of your brand?
I think it was good for me because I felt that's what I was called to do in terms of, I feel my skill set is in that leadership, is in that drive. I see where we want to take Total Fit. I believe the guys who started it have done a wonderful job creating. I'm so thankful to them for creating this methodology. But now it's how do we really sharpen it and get it out to lots of people and make it accessible and sustainable. Sustainable is a massive thing on my heart. I think growing up.
When you say sustainable, are you referring to the sustainability of the brand and the business, or to people continuing to return and maintaining their health?
I think that's a good question. I think twofold. I want to create something, we want to keep developing and be something that's excellent, that really gets results. We're seeing amazing results in Burgess Hill, people losing huge amounts of body fat percentage, people with back pains no longer having back pains, people who didn't think they could run again in their 70s being able to run again, people who have felt, feeling so depressed, getting a new career is wonderful to see. So I love that, and I want to keep developing that. But then I also have a tension where I know the Socotra, the gym that I set up, when I did the setup, helped in terms of training, and how it was a flash in the pan. And I'm very aware of projects, I grew up with you in Sudan, of development projects that are wonderful, but they are there for a month, a year. I want to be part of something where it lasts decades.
I get you. I think that's so important. And I really do love and admire people who appreciate the concept of business, because it's almost as though it's something that everyone can do, where in reality it isn't. It's very tough, it's very challenging in so many ways, but it's like a puzzle you try and solve, and it's a very delicate puzzle, because you're touching real people's lives and livelihoods. So you have to be very careful with it. And then if you have aspirations to grow, you need to be very realistic about how you can get there, and almost have it deeply rooted within you why you want to get there. Because you said, and we've spoken about that, greatness is almost a madness, or pushing beyond the norm. There's a bit of insanity to it. You're constantly trying to do better. So how in you taking that adjustment, leaving the space of being on the floor, having the more business mindset to grow and expand, where do you get your teachings or learnings from? Where do you pull your knowledge from to have the confidence in that sphere?
I've always believed in mentorship, has been a big thing. So yeah, I think it's like a two-sided thing. So I believe in mentorship. So I've always paid. When I had money, I remember the first gym, as soon as we got money, we paid for mentorship. Someone who's done it and gone ahead of you to help you along the way. And so I wasn't born into, particular wealth. I was born blessed, don't get me wrong, but not in a business setting. And so getting people around me that understand that and have been before is a big thing, because they show you, there is a route, because otherwise you just don't know that there's an option for that. So that's been a big one. And then second, there's a sense of you just got to go and do it. You learn by doing, and it's messy. It's so messy, but you try your best, and hindsight is, it's 2020, but you learn as you go. And if you can be the one that just doesn't give up, you'll get there. If you have a clear focus, I want to get here to here, whatever it is, if you just focus on that, you will get somewhere. So it takes resilience, and the lessons we'll be learning in the doing. Having a mentor to help you does save pain along the way, but then you've also got to balance the humility of having a mentor with the belief in yourself that actually maybe you're called to do something different than someone's done before. So there's this kind of tension of you need a bit of cockiness to be
I'm going to do my own thing. So, I'm going to take from you, but I still want to...
For an example, when we were cycling, I talked about when I visited you in Sudan, cycling through Africa.
I want to talk a bit more about that, because you did mention your upbringing in our past and how you were in Sudan, and that's how we've met. Can you talk to me a bit about your background?
Yeah, so I think I've had the best upbringing someone could ask for. So I grew up from the age of 4 in Sudan, in Khartoum, and my dad worked in development, so he worked training teachers, mainly in South Sudan, but all around. So he worked with the local church out there, overseeing the education program. And then my mum did a number of different projects, one involved around orphanages, and then she also was a teacher. So I believe she taught you.
Yeah, she did.
She taught me. So yeah, it was a great upbringing. As you know, Sudan, from 1999 changed so much, from having, one tarmac road to having shopping malls with bowling alleys and, huge development in it. And I think just the underlying thread was just the kindness of the people there, as you know. Like, I remember coming back to England when I was 14 and I was walking down the train, I had a packet of biscuits and I had to share it with everyone in the carriage because that's what you did in Sudan, is you shared what you had. And so that's the richness that I was brought up in. And, you know, Sudan, you've got the desert, so you've got the wildness. We'd go camping in the desert, we'd go swimming in the Nile every Friday at 4 o'clock.
You explored Sudan a lot
with
more
the
than I
friends,
did, I can say. Yeah.
We went, you know, on safari to Dinda. And so it's a beautiful country, and a country that's, you know, I hope to one day get to go back and work in, because I feel like once you've been there, it's in your blood.
And I think a country like Sudan needs people like you and would love to have you working there. Do you feel your upbringing there in a I don't like the term third world, but maybe in a nation not firing the same way as a country like the UK, changed your perspective when you came back here?
So when I came back, I was young, obviously. So I went to I had another blessed opportunity to go to a boarding school, which was just a miracle that I got to go to such a school as that. So I think it makes you really thankful of what.
Was it a very good school?
Yeah, it was a very good school in Bath, and that, you know, education is it's everything if you have your health, because it just opens up your mind. And I think at that school they taught me to believe in myself. The affirmation that I got in sport, in leadership, in my academics. I was heavily dyslexic, but everything I did, they still encouraged me hugely. So I'm very thankful for Moncton for that. But yeah, it makes you, being in a background, it makes you thankful. Because, you know, Sudan, it was so dusty with all the sandstorms.
Yeah.
So if you were in England and something was like clean, you were like, oh wow, there's no dust in it. You appreciate it. And those little things. So those things you appreciated, but then the things, those can be surface levels, but then your heart misses the culture, misses the pace that people had time for each other. Mm-hmm. The warmness of community, of sharing. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you go to England and everything gets better. When you chat to a lot of people who leave Sudan, there's almost a sadness. So you are right in saying it's not good to say third, you know, like, oh, this is developed, because I feel we've lost so much here. Yes, economically, are we by numbers ahead? Yes. Does that have improvements in our healthcare, education? 100%. But as we know, in different spheres, there's more to life than that. And so it makes me appreciate, but then it also makes me understand different cultures, because you've seen a different worldview. And as you know, people think differently here. We've got a much more individualistic culture. That me and my relationship. Sudan is much more advanced than that.
And that is that when you came back, I know you said your time in Sudan at a very young age was very adventurous. You know, you said you went swimming in the Nile, which I'm yet to do.
No.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. You know, it's just.
I went every week.
No, that is fantastic, and you went camping as well. So would you say you were an active person your whole life, or was it when you came to the UK that you began your love and passion for health and fitness?
I think that's from my dad is the role model. So my dad would come back from work and he would just start doing, you know, it was really hot in our house. We didn't have air conditioning. And he would just start doing like press-ups and sit-ups. So we had a pull-up bar in between the bathroom. And us as little boys...
This is in Sudan?
In Sudan, yeah. Okay. Us as little boys, so I've got 3 brothers and we were like 2 years apart. So 2 years old, I was 4 years old, 6 years old and 8. And we would just start like copying him when he'd come back. And I think that ritual, you know, Tony Robbins talks about it, or Atomic Habits, they talk about it, you know, it's things you do day to day that form you. So seeing that mirrored from your father, you start to do it. And then he used to go running every Friday morning, and he never forced us to go running, but we'd be like, Dad, we want to go with you. And we would just start running, like, and it was quite far, you know, we run like 40 minutes as like a 6-year-old.
That's a lot.
And it was like in the heat, you know, 35, 40 degrees.
Yeah. And were you suffering doing that?
Oh, so much. I still think the worst I've done, you know, I've rode at school, I've cycled long distance, played rugby. Some of those runs I can still remember. Just I think the dehydrate, you know, the heat and the stress of like you're trying to keep up with a man and your brothers who are older than you as a 6-year-old.
Do you feel like he thought it was, within your capabilities
Oh
to
yeah,
do?
so my dad never like pushed us. It was my competitiveness. Like
That
he
you
was
pushed
like,
yourself.
there was no like you have to K at this pace. It was me trying to keep up with that. And so I think that competitiveness. And then, but the beauty of it is like we built a lung capacity that helps so much in sport. Like I'm no pro athlete or anything, but playing university rugby and competing in CrossFit and stuff, it just gives you that understanding of pain. And my dad always would sometimes take us on runs and he wouldn't tell us how long they were. He would just say like, oh, we'll get there. And so we just learnt to just to keep going.
So when you came back to the UK and you went to boarding school, was that when you joined the rugby team?
Yeah, so coming back to England was a big shock. I didn't really want to. I thought I did. When I was like 30, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back. But then as it neared it, I was like, it was quite...
Everyone did.
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone did, yeah.
And it's one of those things you think the grass is greener. But before leaving, I didn't want to leave. And coming back, I was going into year 10. My brothers were all going into like more like balance years, where start of GCSEs or year 7, as I was like right in the middle of, no one else moved at that age. And so all the schools in my area were full. God provided a miracle where he provided a massive 90% bursary to go to this amazing boarding school, like I said. And yeah, it was sport came in there where to fit in, you go to rugby, and I was the smallest. I remember I was very, very little, very skinny, very light. And I just ran at the biggest guy. I tackled him. And that was just like, from then you're fine.
You got thrown on everyone's shoulders
because
and
you just
celebrated.
No, it wasn't like a movie. Okay. But it was like, you just like, probably like 3 people noticed.
Yeah.
But you then just start building yourself in sport. As like, people respect. I think guys, especially, if you can handle yourself physically and you can be brave, people respect, you respect people. And so as a 14-year-old, it saves you, man. I think it's one of the greatest gifts a young boy can get, is being able to, even if they're not technically, like I don't think I was very technical, but I tried and I would go into tackles.
I remember seeing a picture of you. We're still in Sudan in our dietary habits and lack of activity. And you're over here playing rugby and you had huge physical transformation. And you talked to me a bit more about what that did to your confidence, and maybe you're no longer perceived as the smallest guy in the room.
Yes, I think we had that ritual doing push-ups and stuff. So I remember coming to school and there was a big thing in the boarding house like, oh, you had abs. And so I was
Everyone
like,
wanted to have
people
abs.
respect it. So I was like, oh, yeah. And rightly or wrongly, I think you should have a deeper sense of identity. But in those early years, you're young,
yeah.
And there was a gym on site. And I remember just starting to go, going to the gym. And I started going to the gym like every day, every other day. And I started rowing as well. Rowing builds your whole back. You start to get stronger and people start to respect you.
Was it easy to just get it? I think because of your childhood and those habits that your dad taught you, it was very easy to try out these physically demanding sports.
Yeah. And I'm competitive. I'm very competitive. So I wanted to be the best. And I saw a link like, with rugby and wanting to be strong. My older brother is a big role model to me. And he had gone to a boarding school in Kenya. And he'd come back like strong. And I was like, I want to be like that. And so I've mirrored a lot of his actions in weight training. Even he cycled down the west coast of Africa. So I cycled down the east coast of Africa.
So you cycled from North Africa all the way down to Cape Town.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a bit about that?
It was to see you, though, to come visit.
Yeah, you did stop by and see. You came and stopped by with us, and at that time, I guess, what year was it?
2014.
2014. I couldn't conceptualize how insane it was to get on a bicycle and cycle from Egypt to South Africa. I could never do that driving. Just because of the logistical nightmares that could go on along the way. I'd love to do it and experience, I'm sure, the many beautiful things you've experienced, but I'm sure you encountered things that may have not been so great. Can you talk to me a bit about it?
Yeah, so coming out of school, me and a friend, John, we wanted to go on an adventure. I think a gap year is it's like a window. You get these windows in life and you just got to take them. They happen in business, they happen in rest, it happened in education, and this is one of like, you've got a year and there's nothing to lose. My older brother said he'd wished he'd finished going down to Cape Town. And so I just love completing things and just seeing a continent where you're like, I could start at the top and go down to the bottom.
These are very, very big things to complete.
And so, but when you break it down, it's very simple. You just have to cycle. And so we would just cycle. We got on. So to give you an idea, we'd never cycled. I did 1 day of cycling practice before we went on the trip, and people were like, "Oh, why don't you cycle across England first?" But they don't get it. It's about completing the challenge. It's not that I love cycling. It's about
one step closer to the finish.
Doing a certain challenge. And so when we flew our bikes over to Egypt, me and John, we didn't even know how to take the wheel off the bike. Like, when you get a puncture, you have to take the wheel off. We didn't even know how to do that. So we were like struggling getting it into the box and everything. And so when we got there, we just cycle, 100 to 150 kilometers a day. If someone invited us in, we'd stay with them. And
what were you eating?
Just local food. So in Sudan, it was full beans with bread. In Kenya, it's injera. Or no, ugali, sorry, the white maize. So you just eat whatever you can. And some days it was a lot, some days it wasn't much. But generally where there are people, there's food.
And do you camp or do you stay with people?
So we would camp. We'd have a rule that when it got to sunset, you either go and stay with someone, like you go see, a village. You might be in a city, and you might need to stay in a guest house. Or if it's in a rural area, we'd make ourselves known and stay, like put our tent by a hut. Or if we didn't find anywhere, we would then have to be invisible. So we'd go find like a bush or like the side of a mountain, and we'd be like, no fires, because you don't want someone finding you at nighttime, because you're very vulnerable as two 18-year-old kids.
Yeah.
So there was like, if people saw you, they'd be very friendly, but you don't want people finding you.
So if anyone wants to get into or embrace this ability to do things like cycling across Africa, to join a rugby team, to get into health and fitness, what would your advice or recommendation to them be?
You just do it. Like, what's the worst going to happen? Yeah, you could die. But you just get on and do it, and you learn. And so that's one of those trade-offs where, talking about before about the humility of learning from people. But so many people told me, you can't do that. You can't do it. It's too dangerous to do it. So you have to have a little bit of like...
But you were almost physically prepared to do it. I mean, I know a lot of people who physically can't do it.
But it's when it's there, you got the fitness while doing it. It's a different type of fitness cycling. It's just the mind. You're just going to learn, and you're going to keep going. So that's there. I think with the fitness, people getting into fitness, I think it's being honest with yourself and some people, pure gym, the gym, beautiful, they can just do it by themselves. Most of us can't. Most of us need to have something like we enjoy. We need to have some accountability, and we need to have some community and structure. And so if that's for you, I think you really need to invest in a personal trainer or small group training, like a CrossFit gym or small group PT gym at the beginning, to break the habits, because you've had decades, depending on who you are. So really we need to have a conversation. You need to chat to a coach. But you've had decades of building in bad rituals of sleep, training, mindset, how you view yourself. It's going to take time it's not going to be for some people, you can occasionally do that. But for most of us, we need coaching. So being honest, like, okay, this is going to cost me a couple of £100 a month, and I'm going to be coaching, but my whole life is going to change. So being honest, do I have the ability to do myself? Great, crack on. Do I not? Humble, like me, like a lot of us, and we get coaching to do it.
Do you feel you're guided by anyone apart from yourself?
Yeah, so definitely. So my faith is a massive element of that. And so growing up, I was, my parents are Christians. And so I always had a sense of God. And I think that gives you a real sense that when I say, maybe the cycling or there's nothing to lose, I feel that in business as well, because it's not my identity. Like if I lose everything, it's like I have God and I'm his son. And when you asked me at the beginning, what's it like being a father? It's like my daughter can't do anything that I won't love her. And that's what it's like for me having a faith. is I feel bulletproof because I can't do anything that God won't love me. And so you approach these failures and everything as just very freeing because I'm not living off someone else's opinion of me with that. And so when I was at school, the big thing it came to shove, actually the boarding school, was you're no longer with your parents. You can kind of be your own person. I grew up as a Christian in the Bible, and the Bible was basically what God's way of history, how God has spoken to people in the past, and how to live nowadays. What is his best design for us? We're constantly all searching, even podcasts like this or other things. And so he's like a loving father, and he's written us like a love letter. And that's what we believe the Bible is, basically, is his love letter to us, ultimately showing through Jesus that he died for us and all that. And so at school, it came to the point I was like, is this real, or do I need to go find something else? Because I'm not going to believe in just something because my family believes in it. And there was stuff I read in the Bible that I wanted to do, which I didn't want to follow, like something alcohol, getting drunk, or girls. I was like, it's telling me not to, but I want to. And so really reading it and wrestling it, and I was like, no, you know what? This is true. This happened. There is a God. He does love me. What changed? I think studying it, actually reading it. And you talk to so many Christians and people, they don't read this book. Everyone, or you read and talk to someone who doesn't have faith, and they say like, oh, we're all the same. When it's like, oh, have you actually read what they say? Do you actually know the differences? And we're not being honest with ourselves about our belief. And so I think really being honest, being like, I want to do this, I grew up this book says this, which is true. They can't all be true. My desires, my family's, my faith. And then with spiritual, I think there's something inside us. I believe in God and praying, God, is this real? And I felt a sense of his spirit, that it was. And I feel that everywhere I go. And so I got baptized. And since those moments, I never walk alone, like Liverpool. I walk, true. I walk in that peace. And so that gives me huge freedom. And it makes life fun because we're all going to die, but this is a blip in eternity. Mm-hmm. So that's why, my passion for Sudan to go back, because I have no interest in turning up to heaven and then God's like, what did you do? Yeah. Look at this billions that I built. That would be nice. Care. Yeah. But he's like, it would, if that helps benefit people.
Agreed.
But only if it's for my glory. I don't work for my glory, I work for his. And so that's a big driving factor, is always powerful. Keeping in mind, I don't do this for me, I do it for him. Mm-hmm. And not trying to do it because I have to, it's because I want to.
Understood.
And so that's a big thing. And you get me on a bad day, I'll be trying to build my own kingdom. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I have to
pull yourself back.
I try to have a quiet time, to journaling, all those things. Because those are the big things that matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's beautiful. And Ben, I wish you the best with Total Fit, and I hope it continues to expand and make its way into the high streets of London as well as into Europe.
Inshallah.
And inshallah, outside and beyond. And I think what you're doing is really good with your personal life as well as in the business sense of trying to expand and grow and then ultimately give back to people. I think that's amazing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.